Some stories hit like lightning blinding, abrupt, gone before you breathe. Mine gathered slow, a storm crouching under the roof I once believed would always shelter me. I'm Ray, 30, a software engineer from Burlington, Vermont. For as long as I can remember, our family house wasn't just where I lived. It was a reflection of me. I patched drywall, repainted rooms, saved up for fixtures, and treated every creak like a promise I could keep. Brick by brick, hour by hour, I kept the place alive. Then the illusion snapped. At dinner, my mother's fork struck the table like a gavel. "You have 48 hours to get your things out," she said. "The house is your sister's now." The words thudded into my chest. My father didn't look up, studied his plate, as if its pattern mattered more than my life peeling open in front of him. My sister, glossy California job, rare calls, always too busy, stood crowned by a coronation I never saw coming. I scanned the dining room. The walls I'd rolled in warm beige, the chairs I'd bought after months of saving, the light I'd installed by watching a dozen tutorials. It felt like strangers were unhooking my heart from the studs. The one who gave nothing was being handed everything. Me, the one who nursed the house through its worst seasons, was being erased like a tenant after a lease ran out. I didn't cry. I stood, pushed back my chair, and walked to my room with my pulse hammering. I picked up my phone, mind finally sharp. If they thought I'd go quietly, they misread me. Morning light seeped through a room that finally felt less like mine. I stared at the ceiling, hearing my mother's voice on repeat. For years, I'd shouldered what my parents couldn't. 5 years earlier, when their finances collapsed and the bank called with its warning, I stepped in. I had a steady tech job. They had panic in their voices. I wired money month after month, $80,000 over 3 years, to cover a mortgage that wasn't even mine. I could have said no. I didn't. Home had history. The apple tree where I buried my first pet. The porch where my grandfather taught me to sand wood smooth. Letting it go felt like disowning myself. Even after the crisis, I kept fixing things. I brightened the living room, replaced rotting boards, tightened the staircase so it stopped singing on every step. I thought we were rebuilding together. My sister Leia was a distant signal, 2 calls a year, jokes about boring house stuff, no help offered, none accepted. I told myself it didn't matter. Family meant sacrifice, right? Looking back, the favoritism had been hiding in plain sight. My mother softened only when she talked about Leia. My father's pride flared for her job, her boyfriend, her travels. With me, there were errands and expectations. I'd tamped down the sting for years. But after that dinner, it all clicked into a hard, cold pattern. I was the fixer, the supplier, not the daughter who counted. If they wanted me gone, fine. But they wouldn't write me out of my own story. I opened my laptop and started to plan. I called Kristen, my best friend from college, now a sharp estate lawyer, the calmest person I know. I poured it all out. The slammed fork, the silence, the sudden inheritance. She listened without cutting in, then asked one question. "Do you have any documents? Will, deed, anything with your name?" I remembered the battered binder in my late grandfather's study. He'd owned the house before my parents. I'd always assumed he left it to them. "Give me an hour," Kristen said. While she worked, I paced our hallway and pulled out photo boxes. My grandfather's hand on my shoulder by the oak tree. His voice on the porch swing after the war stories. The soft creak of rope. "Ray, this place will always be yours. One day you'll understand." I used to think he meant proximity. Maybe he meant possession. Kristen called back, voice tight. She'd found my grandfather's will at the Chittenden County Clerk's office. It named me the sole heir of the Burlington property, notarized and filed 3 years before he died. My parents had known. They never told me. They let me pour in $80,000, take on every repair, and then tried to hand the house to Leia anyway. The betrayal burned clean. "This will is strong," Kristen said. "You have rights, we can enforce it." Her certainty steadied me. I started a list: bank statements, receipts, renovation invoices. Kristen suggested a notarized affidavit documenting my financial support. We'd meet in the morning and move. Before that, I protected what was mine. I walked through the house with sticky notes and a legal pad, tagging what I'd bought outright. The flat screen, the gray sofa I'd saved for, the stainless washer in the basement, the curtains I'd matched to paint. The kitchen table, an heirloom, stayed, but the chairs were mine. Method wrapped around my anger like gauze. I booked a rush job with Green Mountain Movers. Today, I said, personal property only. They said noon. I kept every receipt. Neighbors saw the commotion. Mrs. Linda crossed the street with worry and kindness in her eyes. "You've always been good to this house," she murmured. Mr. Williams stopped by on his lunch break, tracing the air with stories about my grandfather. Their kindness cut me open and held me together. By afternoon, the rooms felt hollow and honest. Then the door banged open. Leia rolled her suitcase inside like she was arriving at a hotel. "Where's everything?" she demanded. "I took what I paid for," I said, arms loose at my sides. "Mom and Dad said this is mine." Her eyes sparked. "You don't get to gut it." "Furnish your own home," I said. "You didn't contribute a dime." She scoffed. "You stayed to be the good daughter. They chose me for a reason." "They chose a story," I said. "Not the truth." She stomped through every bare corner, then called our parents with shaking hands. She emptied it. She hissed, "Come home tonight." She slammed the door on her way out, the frame quivering. I locked it and exhaled. That night, I sat at Kristen's apartment, coffee cooling beside a stack of documents. My phone lit up again and again, my mother's number, then my father's. I let the first few go to voicemail. When I finally listened, my mother's voice was shrill with panic. My father cut in. "Some man claims he owns the house. Explain." I answered the next call. "Dad, you hid the will," I said. "You tried to give my home to Leia." He sputtered something about protecting the family. I hung up. My mother called. "You're tearing us apart. Fix this." I told her I was done fixing what they broke. "Talk to Kristen," I said, and ended the call. Kristen looked up from her laptop. "They can't undo it," she said. "The new owner has the deed." The enforcement had forced my parents' hand. A local investor moved quickly once my title was recognized. I hadn't wanted to sell, but after everything, alienating the house from their control felt like the cleanest sever. Loss and relief braided together in my chest. Months passed. In my new Burlington apartment, sunlight pooled on the rug I chose, beside the sofa I'd fought to keep. I transferred to a smaller local firm, where my ideas didn't need to shout. I brewed quiet mornings, learned the rhythm of my own life, and let the old phone number stay blocked. The silence was heavy at first, then merciful. News trickled in sideways. Leia had to buy a place in California. With her own money, she'd expected a free inheritance. There was no glee in hearing it, just symmetry. My parents rented a modest place on the edge of town and wore the consequences of their choices in the sideways glances of neighbors who learned the truth. Legal fees stacked up from their failed contest. I didn't dig for details. Kristen stayed my anchor. Over iced coffee one afternoon, she grinned. "You're stronger than they ever allowed you to be." I felt it finally. For years, I let love mean self-erasure. I poured myself into a house to earn a place that was already mine. In the end, choosing myself meant saying no, enforcing a boundary, and walking away from the rooms I once equated with belonging. My worth wasn't in the siding or the staircase. It was in the line I drew and kept. When I walk past the lake these days, wind cutting clean across the water, I feel lighter. The life I'm building isn't perfect, but this time, undeniably, it's mine.